Hello, I'm Richard Adams. Good to meet you. I'm in the Stanton Augusta Rotary Club. You can see this is the Rotary symbol. It's a wheel. And Mr. Shull, who we both started teaching the same year in Augusta County. We were both band directors. I have since moved on from the public schools. I'm now teaching some college at Bridgewater, Mary Baldwin, Southern Virginia University, and freelance as a musician. I do a lot of recording, things like that. And anyway, so the code of ethics, you go like, well, what's that? Anyways, most people say, well, you kind of know what it is, but let's go back into the history of, let's just start at Fort Defiance right here. I mean, you go out the window, you look around, what do you see? You see farms, houses, grass, no big buildings around here. You get your little store down the street, gas station. You can imagine what that looked like in 1905 when the Valley Pike, this road down here that goes from basically upstate New York down to Alabama. I don't know if you know that Route 11 down here goes there. Just follow 81 and you'll follow Route 11. Um, that was a little small 2-lane road back then. Maybe some of it might have still been dirt or wooden. Anyway, so 1905, a guy named Paul Harris. And Paul Harris was an interesting guy. He was kind of abandoned by his parents as a young guy and ended up moving to New England, staying with his grandparents. He had good schooling. He went to a private school, and then he went to college, and ended up going to law school. And he was born in the late say like 1870-ish, right in there. So after the Civil War. He ends up in Chicago, but before he went to Chicago, after he got out of law school, he wasn't a lawyer. He did a bunch of stuff. He was an actor. He got on ships that went over to Europe that were hauling stuff and back and forth here in the United States. I just did all kinds of odd jobs. And really, when I look at your history, I love history. He was lonely. He was trying to find himself. He wasn't married. He didn't have any significant other in his life. And so finally, he ends up in Chicago around early 1900s. This has been 115 so years ago, and he didn't have a lot of friends. So what do you do if you don't have a lot of friends? You either, now you would get on the internet and join some group or something like that, or join the bowling team, or join some club or video game club. Well, what Paul did was he was in downtown Chicago. It was winter. It was like February. I can't remember the day, quite frankly. I'll maybe shoot it up here on you. But I did have my brother look up the some details about the day. It was so cold in Chicago on that day, in the middle of the winter of 1905, that the polar bear at the zoo, the Chicago Zoo, froze to death. That's how cold it was. Okay, I'm not kidding. It's in the news. It's the headlines in the paper. So Paul, he calls these. Well, I don't know if you called them or email. You couldn't email. What do? You send them a letter. I guess he sent them a letter or telegram or something. And he said, could we meet at my office? And he got a banker. He was a lawyer, so he got a banker, maybe an insurance person, maybe a publisher, just some different people that did different stuff. Preacher. And he said, man, could we meet in my office? Bring some lunch. Stop and get yourself a piece of pizza, or a hot dog or something. And they met in his office, and they had a good time. And it was during the business day, so they didn't have to go home. So it was like around noon time. So they went in there and they had a meeting, and then the next week they met like at the banker's office, and then the next week they met at the publisher's office. So guess what they called the club? Rotating. They call it the Rotary Club, and that's why it's called the Rotary Club. So if you see those little signs when you go in the Stanton, you'll see this Rotary Club sign sitting up there, and Lions clubs and Kiwanis clubs and all these different clubs. Most of those clubs started in the early 1900s, early to mid 1900s. Why did these clubs start? Well, you look out Fort Defiance. We walk out. You walk out. Here's the auditorium over here, right over there. I think it's right. It's either over there or over there. But the windows used to be over there. That's when I was in a band guide. I used to go there, and the bands would play at different schools. Anyway, so it was agricultural. This was all agricultural. There was just everybody knew everybody. They either probably went to the different churches around here. So when they needed something to get together, they probably met at the church. Could have been Salem Lutheran over here, or the Presbyterian Church, or the Methodist Church down here. Well, anyway, that's how they kind of got together. They met at church. That was the central meeting place. The Weir's Cave, the Church of the Brethren over there, something like that. Anyway, so these people all get together, and they said, we're city guys now. All these guys probably grew up in rural America on farms. Very few people lived in the cities, but the country was coming from being an agricultural society to like an urban society. And we were building stuff. Detroit, they're building cars all around there, and people were moving. African Americans were coming to the South because they could get jobs in the North. All this stuff was going on. Well, so these guys get together, and they finally, after about the third meeting, they say, you know what? Maybe we could do something for the community. Let's get together and, there's some poor kids down in the street, and I know this guy that owns a restaurant. Maybe we could feed them or something like that. So they started doing community service projects. It wasn't long before one of the guys probably moved to D.C. There's a club in D.C. There's a club in Los Angeles. Then there's a club in Richmond, Virginia. Then there's a club in Lynchburg, Virginia. And this whole Shenandoah Valley area right here, if you go from Winchester all the way down to Kingsport, Tennessee, which is just beyond Bristol. So if you get on 81 where it comes into Virginia, look at the map, 81 where it ends Virginia, that's pretty much the Rotary district that we live in. Okay. And they're split up into districts just like sports teams are. Okay. I don't got on my football coach hat. Okay. My dad was a football coach and I was a football player, but I stuck with band. Thank goodness. It was probably best for the world. So these guys get together, and more community service. Eventually, Rotary's in London and England. They're all across Europe. They're all over the world. Couple million people in the Rotary Club. As time went on, the club grew and grew. They had a foundation which people gave money to. You might have heard of Bill Gates, the Microsoft guy. Well, he wasn't a Rotary, but Rotary tried to stamp out and has, except for one country, stamped out polio, because polio was like COVID was now in the 1940s. They didn't know where it came from. They knew nothing about it. And they vowed that they were going to rid the world of polio. And if you listen to Dr. Anthony Fauci, he will tell you that, to get rid of COVID, it needs to be a worldwide thing. You've got to get rid of it all over the world, or else it's going to mutate and keep returning every year. And you'd have to get like a little COVID shot, just like you get a flu shot. Okay. Especially if you're an old guy like me and young Mr. Shaw. Okay. So anyway, so over time, most of these people were self-employed. You had educators and superintendents of schools and teachers and preachers and business people, but they decided to come up with a code of ethics. But really what you need to remember about Rotary is they have the 4-way test. Okay. That's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I learned that in elementary school. Okay. Thank you, Miss Coates. Okay. So first, is it the truth? So when you're dealing with a situation, let's say you're with your friends, it could be anything, whatever, you're getting together with a group of people. Is it the truth? That's the first thing. And you hear a lot about the truth lately, and you hear a lot about people not telling the truth. So if everybody told the truth, the world would probably be a lot better. It would be a lot better off. Okay. And it's hard to tell the truth sometimes. Okay. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? So you look around this group of people, is it fair to them? So you do the best you can do with that. Is it the truth? Go ahead and say it with me. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? I'm not using notes on this, folks. I'm just talking, okay? Because this is like, you kind of learn stuff like this, okay? Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And finally, will it be beneficial to all concerned? So will it help this person, that person, that person? Will it work out? So if you know those 4 things, and you know people or somebody in this room or different people in this room that kind of live by that, you can kind of tell that they tell the truth. They'll get the group together, go, come on, guys, let's work this out. We can work this out, whatever. That's probably who you want to vote for to be the Code of Ethics Award winner. I could go into the Code of Ethics, but we've got another lady getting ready to come up here to tell you about that and give a little speech. But that's who you want. Is it the truth? Do these people live by these values? Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? If you look around the room and go like, oh yeah, that kind of reminds me of so-and-so, then that's who you should vote for. So anyway, once again, I'm Richard Adams. Thank you. Rotary is always looking for members. The youngest member I think we've ever had in our club was like 24. When you get to college, there are college versions of Rotary. So, look this up, look for this symbol and that word right there, and you'll get it. On behalf of Mr. Shaw, thank you, Mr. Shaw. We used to hang out. We would make like Reuben sandwiches and drink his mother's Eloise iced tea. She had a big tub right there. So go for it. And I'll be back in touch with y'all sometime. So y'all have a good day. Thank you for letting me talk to you.